Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Wat zijn best van ons? Я вопрос Романес Путин. Я говорю русский язык чуть-чуть лучше, но если ему есть помощь с дорогой, я могу. Если медленно, как говорят медленно. But English is better.
Okay, so first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
It's not your first time in Moldova, but what I would like to start our discussion with is just to tell shortly about yourself.
Sure.
Who you are, where you came from, and what are your steps that how did you arrive to Spotcoin?
So yeah, my name is Andrew Thornhill. I'm originally from the States. I pretty much grew up in Chicago, and the first time I ever stepped foot outside of the US was in Moscow in 1991, 92, and I just fell in love with Eastern Europe, fell in love with the Russian language, and kind of started working almost immediately in steel business. I was helping some steel companies in Russia, and then Ukraine, and then Bulgaria, and then Romania. And then I kind of moved from steel processing and trading to programming, from programming to banking, and from banking to online banking and to digital payments. Kind of hopped from all over. I lived in Australia, in South America, and all over the States, but I kind of always gravitated closer to Eastern Europe. And I found myself going to the Republic of Georgia over and over, and I really, really hate flying. Even though I've lived all over, I really actually don't like flying very much. I got tired of flying to Georgia, so I just moved there. And I've been living there for a couple of years now. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And can you tell us about Spotcoin just briefly, because I think based on that we will have a kind of diverse discussion about
Sure,
ICOs, cryptocurrencies.
So I'm a payments guy. I've been, even though I've hopped all over, I've really been in payments, online payments, for about 20 years. And I wasn't the earliest adopter of Bitcoin and digital currencies, but when it finally clicked in my head what it was, then it just really took off, and I started to understand the application and the benefit and the marketplace. Because I was in payments for so long, I had many clients and friends that were asking me to help them move in and out of Bitcoin, mainly at the time, this was a couple years ago. People that had a lot of Bitcoin and wanted to sell, people that had money and they wanted to buy a lot, and they wanted to do this quickly. And after exploring this with some of my partners, because Spotcoin is not me, Spotcoin is not Andrew, right? Spotcoin is a team of people. Some of those people are here tonight, and one of the co-founders is in the back there, Garam. And so Garam and I kind of explored the idea of setting up a marketplace to help my friends get in and out of digital currencies very quickly. And so thus Spotcoin was born in and around the end of 2016. And we formulated a company, formulated like a partnership, and started moving towards trading by November. And by the end of January of 2017, we're already doing a couple million euros a month in trading. So yeah, it took off like really fast.
When was the first time that you started to when you got interested in cryptocurrency, in Bitcoin?
Interestingly enough, a company that I was working for in 2014 actually paid me to do research on Bitcoin and to make a determination for the company if it made sense for them at that time to get involved. And I said no. and to be honest, I actually stick by that because the marketplace wasn't ready, let's say. And the rules and regulations around this were not, even now they're difficult, but back then they were not existent. There was no liquidity in the marketplace, but that's when I first started getting interested. So I attended a couple of events in Canada, actually, and met with some attorneys and started to kind of get more around the idea of like what these meant. Like what did these, these self-mining currencies, like what that actually meant for the ecosystem. But it really took off for me in 2016, in the summer of 2016.
Okay, so when actually Bitcoin is quite old, it's 2008, I believe?
Yeah, it already even started. By the time, even when I was getting involved with it, it was like a couple dollars, it was crazy. So.
Okay, yeah, by the way, if you have any question that is to the point, just raise your hand and I will give you the mic. Okay, and just to go on step by step, let's split and let's make clear what is the difference between a blockchain and cryptocurrency, because probably people might use them interchangeably. Are they like the same thing or are they not the same thing? If you could explain a bit.
Sure. No, they're not. I'm involved in digital currencies. I like to call them digital currencies rather than cryptocurrencies because I think that it makes more sense. I'm involved in digital currencies because I understand the application of that digital currency in a global payments environment. I understand the immediate application of using digital currency to move something from point A to point B, whether you're buying something, or you're paying for something, or you need to have stored value and I'm giving it to my friend, or I'm paying Tim, the CEO, his salary. Like I understand the application of that. Blockchain is fundamentally the base of most digital currencies, but it exists as a separate piece of technology. So it might be true to say that almost all digital currencies have blockchain aspects, but for sure, not all blockchains are digital currencies, for sure.
Okay, thank you. And approaching our Slido dashboard, but before taking the most popular question, first I would like to ask you, like, if you were to explain a 6 years old what is an ICO, what would you tell it?
That's a good question, a 6-year-old. Come here. Here's some candy. What would I say?
Like 12 years.
So ICOs are actually a misnomer in a way because it stands for initial coin offering, but most people are actually doing an initial token offering. So spot coin, and we can get into more about what spot coin is and what we hope the spot coin itself will be. But what we're doing is a token offering, right? So an ITO, meaning the initial token offering, is the ability for a company or a group of people to raise capital for itself without giving shares, equity of the company, but giving instead a token, whether an equity token or whatnot, in which that token has the ability to trade in an aftermarket and potentially give profit to those that invest.
How many of you here have heard about an ICO? Okay, cool. Probably a lot of you were thinking, well, how can I benefit if I would invest in an ICO? So I know that Spotcoin is preparing for an ICO. If I were to invest in Spotcoin, or there are a lot of, on one hand, there are a lot of opportunities. On the other hand, there are a lot of money laundering, or and things that are not that good. But still, if to invest in an ICO, what do I get out of it? So I give you money in exchange of tokens. What can I do after that with those tokens?
Well, I think the reason why most people raise their hand about the ICO is because they hear about friends or friends of friends that have made massive amounts of quote unquote digital currency through the ICO or the ITO process. That's the hook, right? Like people hear about digital currencies and they say, oh, it's some interesting way to make money or it's an interesting way to be part of a new economy, but they get it because it has immediate application because they look at a value of what that token is in dollars or in euros, and they say, I bought this token at like 10 cents, and now it trades at $1, so I made money, or now it trades at 1 penny, and I lost money, but they can understand in a fundamental sense like what it is, right? Obviously, the idea behind an ICO or an ITO is that I give you, I offer you something at, a certain value, let's say 50 cents, and in the hope that that's going to go up to like $5, right? And you benefit and I benefit. That's the hope, right? So the way you benefit is either by making money and or by taking part in a new economy, right? So because, and this is something that even people on our team, one of our advisors who's back there is yawning because we just flew in from Korea this morning, never before in the history of the world has so much wealth been able to be compacted into one space, right? If I had $1 billion and I had them actually in paper currency, even if they were $100 bills, it would take up like half of this room, right? I mean, it's a lot of space, right? I remember I was living in Romania in like 2002, 2003, when the lei like totally like devalued. It was 30,000 lei to the dollar, and the maximum bill was 10,000 lei, right? So if you wanted to buy a car in cash and it was $10,000, you had literally a trash bag full of money, that you would like, and then they'd weigh it. It was crazy. Where they had these counters and they'd count the money. But in Bitcoin, or like in Neo, or hopefully Spotcoin, you can have a little zip drive that can have anything from like 50 cents to $500 billion in it. It doesn't matter, right? And never before in the history of the planet has that happened, where you can compact value, actual value, meaning like you can pay for like food and your kid's education and a car in a thing that's the size of a zip drive. It's completely crazy. It's a completely different way of thinking about what value is and thinking about what money is, thinking about what investments are and how to vision that. It's quite interesting, quite revolutionary.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I wanted, you mentioned about the hope. People invest and they hope that the price will rise. Where does that hope come from?
Well, okay, let's be super honest, all right, and very, very clear. I am not here to sell Spotcoin, all right? Spotcoin has a vision for this region of the world, which is very much about education, very much about empowering people and getting this region of the world involved, all right? That's why I'm here. If you decide to invest in any ICO, myself included, I encourage you to do a lot of homework, all right? Just a few weeks ago, some, bad person was like, hey, let's put vegetables on the blockchain. Something that doesn't even make any sense. Set up an ICO, quick white paper, created a Bitcoin address, raised $1.5 million, and now his website says penis, right? Because it's completely ridiculous. It doesn't even make any sense to say I'm going to put vegetables on the blockchain, right? So Spotcoin, like we think any responsible ICO should, has done a very, very detailed white paper to explain why we think our token has value and why we think you should impart from your hard-earned cash, to buy into it. But I strongly encourage every single person in this room and your friends and your parents and the people that you talk to online that say, hey, I'm thinking about investing in this ICO, do your homework, right? Make sure that they've got a strong team, make sure they've got a strong advisor group, make sure they've got a white paper that makes sense, make sure they're actually answering the question. I saw one of the other questions that was up here was like, hey, what's a successful, if I'm going to do a cryptocurrency, what should I do? Like, do something that makes sense, right? Do something that answers the question. And make sure that like you have the ability to impart value to those that are going to actually give you money. So yeah, the hope comes from people that actually do the research and realize that there is value and that you're in the dawn of a new generation of money and value back to this putting $500 billion into a zip drive. We're literally looking, everything is going to be very different for every one of you in the room in 10 years from now. The way that you're going to get paid, the way that you're going to pay for things, the way that you're going to record your taxes, the way that you're going to buy a car, the way you're going to vote, everything is going to be very, very, very different. And digital currencies are really at the root, and blockchain for sure is at the root of all of that. So the hope comes from those that see the value in that difference between how things are now and how things will be. And the hope is that you're going to buy something that has low value right now, but will have enormous value in the future.
Well, that was quite complicated.
Sorry.
No. Thanks for that. Basically,
I get really serious because I want people to, I see these ads on television and they're like, invest in Bitcoin and earn 5,000% a day. Like, that's crazy. Like, just replace the word Bitcoin with money. Right? On any ad, on radio, on TV, or something on the subway or the bus. And if it says, buy Bitcoin now and earn money every day, just replace the word Bitcoin with money. Does that make sense? Like, buy money and make money every day. No, it doesn't work like that. The world doesn't, those are scammers. People want to take your money and not give you anything. So I take it really seriously because we've done a lot of work with platform.
Thank you for that, because it's a buzzword right now, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and so on.
Yeah.
And we also would like to educate and to raise the awareness and understanding about the ICOs and cryptocurrencies.
Sure.
Yeah, and well, basically, basically, by investing in ICOs,
Yeah.
A person can, and the hope, as you said, comes from the team. If you see that the team is very talented and they have a good idea, you basically kind of become part of the team and grow with their success.
Yeah. You take part in an economy that rewards you for the work that you've done by investing in that team, right? And it's not a reward based on the equity of that company in which you have to take place in the stock market, but it's in a digital currency in which the growth or the value of that token has increased, and you have the ability to transport that value anywhere in the world and trade it in many different places around the world. And others share in that vision, right? And reward you by saying, hey, you bought that token for 50 cents, well, I'll give you $1 for it. And someone else is like, well, I'll give you $1.50 for it. And now you're part of something that's like bigger than you. And obviously, in a good situation, that token is raised in value.
Okay, we have some new questions. Do not hesitate to vote on them. In the meantime, we have a question.
Quick question. So I'm new, and I want to invest in an ICO. Is there any criteria that I can maybe follow and evaluate an ICO?
I feel like it's a loaded question.
Yeah.
He's my CEO, so I'm thinking but is this a planted question? No, so the question was, so I said, hey, do your research, right? And make sure you understand what the criteria are. And so his question was, well, what are some criteria? And so I'm wearing this hat because I just came from a couple of NEO conferences. That video that was shot was like a week ago. So it was kind of cool. I had never seen it before. But I was in Taipei and I was in Korea to take part in the hackathon in Taipei and the NEO meetup. What is NEO? NEO is a blockchain that's very different than Ethereum and very different from Bitcoin. And that's the system that we've engineered our token on. It's the Net5 NEO token. And there's a group that's established itself alongside NEO called the City of Zion, which is a bunch of programmers that basically understand really, really nerdy, geeky stuff about blockchain. And they kind of see past even the vision that I have for blockchain. And they've created a set of criteria by which ICOs should be measured. And those criteria include things like, how are they marketing? What's their use case? Do they have a model? Have they built something that that works? How's the technology explained? Are they doing stupid tie-ins to things that don't make sense? Does the team look good? Do the advisors look good? Does the white paper make sense? And there's a set of criteria, and you can download it on the City of Zion, but you can also see it in our white paper because we took all of those criteria that were set up by a group of guys that are much smarter than us, and we ranked ourselves on all of those. And I think there's how many? 11. There's 11 different criteria. And we actually we got 5 different reviewers who were outside of our company to say, we have 9. We have 9 reviewers to read our white paper and look at us as a company and say, and rank us on these 11 things. And I, as one of the founders, was bummed, right? Because some people were like, hey, you suck at that. And I'm like, what? No, we don't. But it's my job to explain to them better why I don't suck at that. But I would caution you on any investment always. Whenever you're investing in something, I would urge you to take that caution and apply a set of principles to it and say, okay, well, does this white paper, now everyone's heard about this new token, but does vegetables on the blockchain have a good white paper? Does it have a good advisor team? Does it have a use case? And I think that you would find on the tokens that are scams that they're going to get washed out, by those criteria, and they're going to be in a much better position.
Okay.
I have a question
Yeah.
here to the point. So
Yeah.
one of the criteria mentioned is the team.
Yeah.
What skills should I look at the team that is issuing an ICO?
So that's a really good question. And honestly, I think one of the better questions here is this one from Julian, which is if you were to give one piece of advice where you want to build a cryptocurrency, what would it be? The team should help you understand how the company and that cryptocurrency is answering the question. Right? What's the problem? What is the problem that's being addressed in the white paper? How is the team addressing it? How is the team helping that digital currency address the problem and solve it? And so does the team have technical expertise? Do they have leadership expertise? Do they have follow-through? Do they have the ability to, not just have an idea in a room, but bring it down and make it actually something real and then push it forward, right? So there's tons and tons of geeky, smart people that have great ideas, but they'll never actually put it into action. So does the team have the ability to do that? Does the team have the ability to transmit that idea to others so that other people can understand the excitement of how this works and move forward? The team should address the question of how is the cryptocurrency making the world a better place, I think. That's for me. Does that answer?
Yes.
That's a great question. That's a good question.
Yeah, and just to probably to build on that question, so basically, is that correct that if you want to invest in a cryptocurrency, well, you need to understand cryptocurrencies or blockchains?
You need to understand, no, not necessarily. I don't think you need to understand. Blockchain is really, really complicated. At lunch today, we were talking about distributed Byzantine consensus node, which is actually really, really complicated. And the way that you can speed up transactions by not having proof of work and proof of stake. These are all great things to know. I think it's better to understand that there is an interesting piece of technology out there that can be potentially applied to use cases in which technology can answer, such as moving money from China to Moldova, moving money from Moldova to Romania, me paying you for the pizza, things like that. So I think if you understand the problem, for example, today, I walked here. I walked here because I couldn't get a taxi. I couldn't get a taxi because I don't have whatever app that you guys use to get taxis, and I don't know what that app is. That's a problem, right? I walked for 30 minutes in the snow and almost got run over by a bus on the bridge over here, right? So that's a problem. Right? I would have happily paid $10 for someone to take me here. And we actually knocked on the window of a couple
I have offered, but...
No, yeah, thank you, but I was right there. I was in front of that that ad. But we knocked on the window of a taxi driver and I was like, hey, and I speak enough Russian. I'm like, will you take us to this place? No. Well, I'll give you $10. No. Okay, that's a problem. If you have an application that addresses that problem, it allows for someone like me who needs to go from his hotel to a place like this and not be all sweaty and schlep all my stuff all over. That's a use case. That makes sense, right? So yeah. So I don't think you have to understand the technology of how that taxi cab is called, but you understand that there's a need for people in Chisinau to get around that are not Moldovan and don't have a Moldovan SIM.
Okay, thank you. Speaking about
Yeah.
use cases, we have here another question about how, do you think cryptocurrency will change bank services?
Yes.
In what way?
So I've actually got some shirts back there. I'm going to ask a question. How much money do you think is transmitted on a daily basis on the SWIFT network? Do you guys know what the SWIFT network is?
Yeah.
Have you ever sent money okay, yeah, we got some guys in the room. So SWIFT is an international messaging service that allows for ledger-type transactions to take place between member banks. So if I'm wiring, if my grandma is like, hey, I need $10,000 to buy a car, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, it seems kind of strange, but okay, I'll send you the money. And I'm in Moldova, I'll probably have to go to a bank to do that, right? Okay, I can't just like Western Union her like $10,000. So if I send her the money, I'm probably sending it through a SWIFT service. Does anyone know how much money per day is sent on a SWIFT network?
Several billion?
Yeah, much, much more than that.
500 trillions.
That's actually pretty close. That's pretty close. It's $1.5 trillion a day. 1.5 trillion. I mean, now, most of that is backed assets of like real estate and whatnot, but the idea is there's a lot of money that moves around the world on a daily basis. Does anyone, so get that man his shirt, whoever, maybe Sharena or Tamuna. By the way, Sharena and Tamuna came early. They didn't have the walking problem because they organized themselves and got here by taxi because they're smart. So I have a good team, right? Don't look at me, look at my team. Anyway, does anyone know if you can know for sure that a SWIFT was sent? Is there any application, even as a banker,
Abracadabra.
to know that I sent the money? Even if I send like a special MT700 message, do you know, can you tell for sure that I sent the money?
I heard about the new Global Payment Innovation Program of SWIFT, which use some characteristics of blockchain.
Yes, and do you know why?
Yeah, because, so this is, I think, a part of the answer for your question, because with this system you can trace all the transactions from the beginning to the end.
That's
and
right.
All the intermediaries from the start.
But it's like not even in place yet. So of that $1.5 trillion that we were talking about, like none of it is verified. None of it. Like basically you can get on the phone and be like, Grandma, I sent you the money. And she's like, well, I don't have it yet. Well, it's in the mail, you know, and I never sent it because no one knows. No one can tell. And even if I did send it, it can take the bank like 2 days for it to show up, or 3 or more, and no one knows at what point that money is in the system. So, where were we? It's gone. But the question was, will blockchain change the banking? Yes, it will, because that's insane. You can't move $1.5 trillion around the world and not have a way to know where it is. Like, we've lived in this like crazy ancient world where people are like, well, he said he sent the money, so I hope I'll get it. Like, that doesn't work anymore. You can't do that. Like, when you send a Bitcoin payment, you know pretty soon. But when you send a Dash payment, you know in a few seconds. When you send a Neo payment, you know in like a split second. That's the future, right? So will blockchain change banking? Yes, it will. Is it needed? Yes, it's very much needed. I can't wait.
Okay,
Sorry, I think I kind of decided that.
For your information, a couple of years ago, $1 billion have disappeared from Moldovan banking system. Yeah.
Where did it go?
That's
right? That's crazy! $1 billion? And it went somewhere, right? But no one knows where it went.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
it was just like
but this is why, thank you, this is why we're so focused in this region. Who was I talking to earlier?
How come heavy to the lives of how come heavy?
What's that? Oh, anyway, we're saying like, this is a region in which people don't have a huge amount of trust for each other, right? It's not your fault. It's not your fault, right? Like, we don't choose to where we're born, the countries we're born into, and like who our great-grandfathers were, and like who followed like crazy systems of like politics. Like, it's not your fault that you don't have like these trusted systems built in. Like, blockchain helps to answer some of that in a really, really nice way, I think. You know, it helps us like, it allows things like that not to happen. You know, can you imagine a world in which all of the political donations are put on blockchain? All right, it's possible, right? I mean, okay, this might be a stretch, but like, these are things that can certainly happen. In Georgia, where my country is, my company is, the Republic of Georgia, they put all the land deeds on blockchain. You know why they did that? Because they're just like you guys. They're from a former Soviet, you know, government, and people don't trust each other. And they don't know who owned something. They don't know like what entity took over in like 1940 and what entity took over before that in 1907. And like now it's on the blockchain. There's no dispute, right? Now there might be issues about getting on the blockchain to begin with, but once it's there, and you can check that. And you have to worry about trusting. You have to worry about your neighbor being like, oh, I'm so sorry, my kid is sick, I need to sell my property, and she never owned it. Like, these are things that can't happen on blockchain. And so it's really important. So that's why, one reason why we're touring around this area, it's not to raise a ton of money for Spotcoin. That's going to come from people that understand, like, the importance of this in the world. Believe me, I'll take your money, I'm happy to. But we're here because there's a lot of talent in Moldova. There's a lot of programmers and people that can understand technology. There's a lot of demand for it. People are thirsty and hungry for this technology. And we want to help spread it. We want to help teach it and allow people to understand it and be able to make use cases outside of cryptocurrency. Make it for companies and for land deeds and for marriages and I don't know, things that have application for political donations. So that's why we're doing these things.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 votes. Yay! Do you have bounty or airdrop campaigns?
Yeah. So we.
I'm sorry. Can you please explain first what is bounty and airdrop?
Sure. So okay. So this is about our ICO. So these are different ways to release tokens into the marketplace. An airdrop is when you have a digital wallet where you're holding, I don't know, Neo tokens or something, and that information is public. I may not know who you are, but I know that these wallets exist. So I can say, I'm going to send 1 Spotcoin token to every person that has at least 10 Neo in their wallet, right? So for everyone that has at least, I don't know, 280, I don't know where Neo's trading at, $50. Where's Neo trading at, Brian, do you know?
It's about $70.
Okay, so if everyone has at least $700 of Neo in their digital wallet, I'm going to give them 1 Spotcoin token. Why? Because I'm hoping that they're going to notice me and say, wow, they're an interesting company. That's an airdrop. So you get it totally for free. We're not doing that. Why we're not doing that, it has to do with the value of what we're trying to achieve. We're not trying to raise awareness about Spotcoin. We're trying to show that the token itself has value. So we're selling our tokens, but we are using a bounty program. And so our company moved very, very quickly. And so we basically, Tim initiated, our CEO, initiated an ICO of the week, which is really being like 2 or 3 ICOs of the week. And so every week for several months, we evaluated different ICOs, successful and not successful. We studied the different parameters of them, and everyone, Tamuna's given them, Shireena's given them. Tamuna, what was the last ICO you did of the week?
Oh my god.
Was it Red Pulse?
No.
Cosmo. So they'll pick one at random, or they'll pick one based on a set of criteria, and they'll study it. So, a long answer, but the thing is that we also, in those ICOs, we determined that the best bounty program was this one called Goblin out of the UK. And Goblin does a really, really interesting system, and they've got these different mathematical metrics and whatnot. That bounty program actually drops Wednesday. And so the bounty program, what is the bounty program? The bounty program is, you say, hey, I may not have a lot of money, I may not want to put a lot of money into an ICO, but I know a lot of people. I have a lot of influence. And so I'm going to convince people to invest in it, and if they invest in it, I'm going to get rewarded for that. That's a bounty program. They're very popular on different Bitcoin talks and whatnot. It's not the primary way that we're selling our token, but it's a very important way that the ICO community interacts with each other and investors. So we are implementing one, a very, very good one, and it actually starts on Wednesday. So kind of a timely question. Sorry, your question? Okay, legit. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Maxim. I'm a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
And my question is, from your perspective, what are the main legal problems in this field, in cryptocurrencies, fintech, if you face them? Do we need better laws if we need them? And another question.
Can I answer that one first? Because that's a really good, and I'll do a second one, but that's a really good question, and I don't want to forget it. The answer is a lot needs to be changed. Do you guys know that because Spotcoin actually is an equity token? What does that mean? That means that we're actually, sorry, it's a dividend token. We're giving a portion of our profits back to every token holder. So if we make $10 and there's 10 tokens, we're giving a percentage of that back to the token holders. And so we're doing it through an audit. Did you guys know that because we're doing that, we actually are unable to issue our token in most of the countries in the world? So because I want to be a good citizen, and because I want to actually issue my token in a fair and equitable way, and because I want to share my profits with you, I actually have to jump through more hoops, and it's almost impossible for me to do that. The reason why is because the laws are so antiquated that the only way most governments can look at a dividend token is as a security, right? And because I'm not a security, I'm a token, right? You know, well, okay, that could be another question and another, but the unfortunate reality is the reason why ICOs were started. People kind of have any idea why? If actually, even if we can answer this, I'll give them a T-shirt. Does anyone know why ICOs were created in the first place? What was disrupted by ICOs? What did ICOs disrupt? It's actually something very similar, but with a different letter in the middle. An IPO. So an IPO is initial public offering. And what happened when Google went public? Now, who made money when Google went public?
Big companies.
Yeah, big investors, right?
It was the time of .com.
But who individually was able to make? Who was able to capitalize from that?
Big funds and big hedge funds.
Big funds, big hedge funds.
That's right.
ICOs and ITOs was a disruption of that. Because it's not fair that only rich people and big companies, make sure you get some t-shirts, Sharina, or, yeah, we'll get that. Everyone's giving t-shirts away. I feel like we're like on a game show or something. It's awesome. And give him a t-shirt. Anyway, IPOs were disrupted by the ICO marketplace. What that means is that ICOs are trying to give back to everyone the opportunity to participate. However, in the United States, where I'm from, I am forbidden from allowing small investors to participate in my ICO. Why?
You're not forbidden.
Yes, I have to do a Regulation D. I cannot, you have to be an accredited investor, which means that you have to make $1 million a year, or have to be worth $2 million, make over $300,000 a year, and not include your house in that. That's like a lot of money, right? That disqualifies everyone, including my parents, right? So, like, people are not able, the only people that can take advantage of my ICO are people who are already wealthy, which is no different than the IPO, right? Which is, so yes, you know, I do think the laws need to change incredibly because it's not fair. The laws are structured in a way in which the government says, well, we're protecting people, but it's making it really difficult for people to like try to participate. And that sucks. I don't like it. Anyway, sorry, that's the first one.
So from your point of view, your token is like a good, yeah? It applies the laws which applies to goods.
It's a dividend token, so it's not a utility token with regards yet. We're not providing any goods or services with regards to how that token...
The token itself, is a good? Because there's somehow, there has to apply some laws. By analogy, if there are no laws.
I think it's a new asset class, to be honest. And I think that that's the issue. This is just me. I'm not an attorney. We hired an awesome attorney firm in Ukraine called Juskotum, terrible name, but really, really smart guys. And to be honest, I don't feel qualified to answer that question directly, but I personally think, at least on behalf of the company, I personally think that this is the ICOs and digital tokens and digital currencies are a new asset class, and that they need to have new laws that help people to understand. I want to be regulated. I'm happy to pay taxes. I'm happy to, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, topple the world government. I'm trying to like create, you know, equity in the new smart economy. And so I think that laws need to catch up to that. And I think that's fair, you know. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry. Are we losing time?
No, we have 7 more minutes,
Okay.
so we are
Sorry.
able to take.
Sorry, I kind of talked a
some
lot.
questions.
My apologies.
So topic was about laws, yeah?
Sorry, what?
Topic was about laws.
Laws,
And if your ICO and your ITO has a long-term vision, you know, there are talks that an SEC regulation from the United States is coming to crypto. The Russians plan to propose a regulation for crypto in June, I think. So that will affect crypto's price in the long term. And just a small announcement of Google's ban to crypto ads in June caused its price to plummet by yesterday lost 20%. and I'm a teenager, so that in the long term could affect you and your visual lights. So how do you plan to react to, let's say, possibility of an SEC regulation that just bans ICO, it bans...
I think that the answer is, so the question was, so what's our long-term vision because the price of some of these digital currencies have gone down lately? It's a good question. I think the answer is education. Right? I understand, I'm a hodler, if anyone knows what that means. I own a decent number of digital tokens. I have no desire to sell them anytime soon. Why? Because I understand the vision of what these tokens mean in the long term. And I believe that in order for those to raise in value, I have to do a better job of educating people. I have to do a better job of explaining to people how this works. I have to do a better job of implementing the use case of these across the, the ecosystem. So yeah, I think it's going to take time. It's hard work. I mean, and I was talking earlier, like this place is called the Startup Grind. Do you guys know what grind means? Yeah, it's not just work. It's like repetitive, pushing, grinding salt, grinding flour, wheat into flour. Like this is not something that should be easy, right? I shouldn't be up here like saying, hey guys, it's super easy to do this. It's really, really hard. It's really hard, right? And it's really, really hard to get all of these things in motion, from government regulatory, from education, from understanding how these things work, from trying to implement value through the token basis. Like these things take time. And it's 100% addressed in our business plan because we're creating a summit, it's a blockchain institute, Black Sea Blockchain Institute in the Republic of Georgia with offices scattered around, including possibly Moldova, in which we're teaching people about this, about the use case of blockchain and the use case of digital currencies. I actually am not upset about Facebook or Google's bans because those are the scammers.
We couldn't properly promote this event because of that, but yeah.
It stinks. That's stupid, I think.
Well, anyway, by the way, the word fintech is also banned by Facebook. So
really?
Yeah,
that will change. That will change.
A fast answer to Anatol's question is yes, but we have another one from somebody who is anonymous. In which organization is better to invest? Like between ICO and other companies in which you invest and you receive 10 or 15% per month from your capital?
Man, who's making 10 to 15% a month on capital? I want in on that.
Alpha Cash.
Who?
Alpha Cash. Not Rock.
Alpha Cash?
Yes.
Alpha Cash.
It sounds like a swear word in the middle. I don't know. Anyway, that's not sustainable, generally speaking. I mean, I would be very nervous if you start seeing things above 3 or 4, even 5% on a monthly. Like, do a lot of homework, even if it's a bank that's doing it. I remember when oh crap, I forget. There's a bank in Romania that crashed in like 2002, and they were offering like 8%. And they're like, oh, we're a bank, we're regulated, we're licensed. Like, it's not sustainable. Like, how are you paying 10 to 15% a month? That's if you somehow get that and you know this legit. Like, don't tell anyone. Just put all your money in it and be happy. But if you take off that, like, if you put a dot in the middle, say 1 to 1.5% per month, that's a good question. Most dividend tokens pay around 3 to 4% total per year, which is lower than what you can get sustained from certain bank institutions. And yeah, it's a matter of asking the question of like, what are you looking to? If you're looking to achieve bottom line, then you need to go to whatever gives you sustainable best end results. I mean, whether that's digital currency, great. If not, then that's weird. But if you're looking to be part of a different type of ecosystem, or if you're looking to diversify your payments across different ones, then yeah, I think it's great. But do your homework on both. Apply the same criteria to whoever's giving you 15%. I mean, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you. There are like public and private blockchains, and how to implement a blockchain or cryptocurrency in a private marketplace.
So actually, when I was
a technical question, but
yeah, no, it's fantastic. So these are good questions. So like the private or more centralized blockchains that like have usually very specific use cases. You need to be careful always with saying, what does blockchain answer that a database doesn't? Right? Like Like, are we using the word blockchain because we're trying to be fancy-dancy? Or does a simple database work just as well? Like, databases are great, and they're fast, and they're efficient, and there's fantastic software around them. Public blockchains make sense, of course, in a trustless, environment where you can be rewarded for third-party verification. I don't know of a ton of examples in the private marketplace, but one of them it's not really a marketplace, but like taxes, for example, or like a government blockchain for the land deeds or marriages or whatnot. These are examples of in which third-party verification is not necessarily necessary, but it's welcome, on some kind of a consensus node in which you can verify information that should be public, but at the same time should be controlled by some central repository. Possibly also, maybe I can think of some bank applications for that, with regards to the SWIFT and whatnot. This is not, you don't necessarily need third-party verification of a SWIFT transfer, but you want to be able to know where it is, and there might be a situation where third-party verification makes sense, but then you're starting to compete more with like a Visa or MasterCard. But I can visualize like a private blockchain for SWIFT, keeping track of where the money is from point A to point B when it goes through all sorts of hops.
Okay, thank you. Sure. And we have time for one last question from the audience, if anyone wants to share it. Yeah?
Do you pay salaries in cryptocurrencies?
That's an awesome question.
What's your vision on employment and salaries? Because you mentioned transfers and SWIFT, but also I guess the second biggest financial transfers is for salaries around the world.
Sure.
So how do you see that changing with
Well, to answer the first question, most of my full-time employees are not paid for in digital currency. However, the guys that did that video were paid 100% in digital currency. Our advisors and those that sit on our white paper and our ICO in the advisorship are 100% paid in digital currencies. And some of our contract labor is also paid in like hybrid digital currency and in what we call fiat currencies. I'm a big fan of both, right? I love hybrid payments because it allows people to kind of explore the space a little bit and get used to receiving money that way. It allows them to take personal responsibility over their digital wallets and try to understand better how these things work. We have a policy at the company where every employee has to have a certain amount of digital currency, right? And so we match some of those payments. So Tim put the policy together, but basically through our ICO of the week, we've told people that they have to have at least $50 or $100 or so worth of digital currency because they work for a digital currency company. And they need to understand what it means to hold on to that and be responsible for that and take care of it. Obviously, it's our goal. I shouldn't say obviously, but it is our goal over time to migrate more payments to digital currency. And our initial dividends from our ICO tokens will be paid in digital currency. I actually don't receive a salary at all from Stockcoin, but my benefit in the future will largely be in tokens. So, does that answer? Yeah, good question. Whoa, this guy's super serious. Do we have one more? He's really serious. Okay.
Будет нормально, если задам на русском вопрос?
Русский, да, можно.
Как ты видишь свое видение насчет банка будущего?
Будущего, я не знаю.
So, what's your vision about the bank of the future? So,
good question. So, actually, a good question. Spotcoin originally was going to use money raised from the ICO to create a bank. Then we realized that that's not the answer. The answer of what is the bank of the future is actually not a bank at all. It's a system, I think, that utilizes third-party other systems and partnerships that allows you to do what you think a bank should do, but not necessarily through a central repository. And I'll be happy to talk to you about it afterwards, because it's a fantastic question. I think that the bank of the future is not a bank at all. It's certainly a financial institution that's regulated and monitored, because that's your right as a citizen to not have like idiots go and steal your money and be stupid with it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like, you know, a bank with marble floors and like a teller. It's going to look very different than what you think a bank is.
Well, on this positive and futuristic note, let's finalize. There is one thing though that we also do in Startup Grind, and this is living the values, living to the values of this community. If some of you have a need or an ask, you can stand up, I will give you the mic, you have to present yourself and what are you searching for, so that anybody in this room can help you solve your problem. So,
can I start?
Yeah, of course.
Are you done?
Yeah, well, my name is Julian. I'm a developer and I have a startup with my partner Eugen. We are searching for people from the marketing and sales domain. So if you are a marketer, you want to work part-time or full-time, or if you're a salesperson, come talk to us. We would like to talk with you as well. Yeah, thank you.
Cool, that's great. We didn't do this in Toulouse, that's fantastic. We'll tell Toulouse about this. My name is Andrew. Hopefully you know my name because I just talked to you guys for an hour. I am looking for people that know government people in Moldova who would be willing to travel to Tbilisi in April 24th, 25th, or 26th to speak about Moldova's vision of digital currency, positive or negative, in the future. If people know government people for that, please come talk to me or talk to Tim, the other bald guy here. We'd be very interested in talking to them and setting up arrangements for them to come to Tbilisi and join us at this conference. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Come on. Take courage. Okay.